All right, my name is Jordan Smith, and I'm here to talk about bullying. I've decided to make this recording to show what we as teachers can do, what our role is with in concern to bullying, some activities for students that we can do, some things to watch for, the types of bullying to watch for, and then I want to share my bullying story from back when I was in elementary school. But first, I really want to get down to it and talk about what we as teachers can do. And it's what I've been talking about for about every homework assignment I've done, but it's creating a safe environment. Creating a safe and supportive environment. I do that with humor, I do that with inclusion, and I do that by leading by example. I want my students to act the way that I have been acting because I know that I will act with respect, give them inclusion, make sure that everybody is treated fairly. So we really need to create that safe and supportive environment that promotes inclusion and make sure that we are acting as role models. We also need to monitor hotspots in the classroom, places like a playground or basketball court, especially me as a prospective PE teacher. I will be watching for the back of my classes and for areas around the blacktop that I can't necessarily see right away. That's where bullying often happens the most. I also need to monitor victims that are often bullied, such as overweight students, LGBTQ students, students of color, um, making sure that they feel included and making sure that they are not left behind. Again, I will lead by example to show how I want my students to act, but the bullying might still happen, so I really need to be on the lookout and be prepared myself to know and anticipate when and where the bullying is going to happen. When the bullying happens, because it's almost inevitable, unfortunately, I need to be able to support both the bully and the victim and the person that's being bullied. I need to have a conversation and communicate effectively with both of them with language that they can follow and understand as well. I need to be able to go to each of them separately, each of them together, and speak about why things got out of hand and make sure that they understand why they got out of hand and how that we can reconcile it and how that we some strategies that we can use to cope really. um, I most importantly out of all this want to follow up after the bullying has happened. I will speak about this a little bit with my bullying story, but without following up, I guarantee that the bullying is going to happen again. And so keeping your eye out on the parties that were involved and following up with both the bully and the victim will make sure that they know in their mind what they did can be stopped and prevented, and it can be stopped in the future. Um, I also don't want to ignore students. I talked about the victims, the students that might get bullied more often than others. Even if they're being annoying and doing it and making behavior that would often get bullied, I need to focus on them and know and make sure that they know that what type of behavior is acceptable in the classroom and make sure that anybody that's bullying them knows that that's not acceptable either and that we need to accept them. Some activities for some students to do. I really like the role play and skits. My classroom or summer camp experience, uh, giving examples and giving role play activities has really helped uh, develop strategies in leadership building and in coping with some negative things like bullying. So I think role playing and making a skit or a presentation that acts out what we can and what we can't do wrong really goes a long way. A pretty simple discussion also will do for an activity for students. I think a group circle discussion has a lot of value, and a lot of students will surprise us as teachers with what they have to say and with how mature they can be and aware of how bullying works in their classroom. There's also creative ways other than just talking about it. Having students do creative writing or making art based on how they feel about bullying, about how they feel about being bullied, They can draw a picture, they can do a digital drawing online, they can make a story. These are really creative outlets that can help students with some coping strategies a little bit. I want to talk about the types of bullying, to watch for. There's really physical and there's emotional bullying. The physical bullying has to do with pushing or hitting or spitting or tripping. Conventional bullying, the physical might even leave a mark. You are physically hurt from this. But also there's emotional bullying. There is insults and teasing and derogatory remarks. Even exclusion or spreading rumors can be forms of bullying. And so being aware of the types of bullying that can happen in your classroom really goes a long way to spotting it early, preventing it, and making sure that it doesn't happen before things get out of hand. I think my bullying story from when I was in 5th grade really says a lot about the way that students can react to bullying. My best friend, kind of out of nowhere at the time, decided to start bullying me. And he and the new kid joined in and started talking about how old my dad was, or me being a little bit shorter, or me being not as fast as them. And it really got to me, and it was constant and consistent and affected me a lot. And there were days when I would go home pretty distraught. Unfortunately, the teacher never noticed because I was very good at hiding things and hiding my emotions. So I didn't get the teacher involved. I ended up having a discussion. Since this was my best friend, I knew his parents well. And our parents and I, and the two of us, got together at Adalberto's, I still remember, and had a long cry and long discussion about what we could do, what Sam could do to not bully me, what I could do to prevent this from happening. And go figure, it didn't fully work. Just talking about it didn't fully work. A follow-up was necessary. And so me following up with Sam and saying, hey, you are repeating the behavior, and even letting Mr. Harrington, my teacher at the time, know after the fact that it happened, that, hey, this happened, this discussion with our parents happened. He was able to watch for it and follow up with Sam and I, and eventually, even though it didn't stop right away, it eventually stopped because of the follow-up. So I really think the consistency of following up with the two parties or the multiple parties that were involved in the bullying is so important. It doesn't matter if you can't just say, don't do this or do this, and then students will listen. They won't. We have to have repetition and consistency with any lesson we teach them, especially bully prevention. These are my thoughts quickly on bullying. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much.